let's get into how Atlanta police are now even arresting legal observers and charging them. Actually, I'll show you this one first. Legal observers and charging them with terrorism. Now, for those of you who have never been to a protest, um, lots of times there will be legal observers there, and they're lawyers who are basically donating their time to say, and they usually have on little strangely covered hats, neon hats, to let everyone know, hey, I'm a legal observer. And mainly they serve as a bit of a wall between the cops and the protesters at times. I don't mean they actually physically put themselves between, but it makes the cops think twice, because the cops go, oh, there are literally lawyers standing around watching what we're doing, filming what we're doing, and they actually know the law. And so lots of times it will have a chilling effect on police brutality at protests to see the legal observers there. So it serves a real purpose, and a lot of the legal observers are fucking awesome people. They're doing the Lord's work, doing something important. And rarely will you ever hear of cops arresting legal observers, because they're not that dumb. I mean, cops are dumb, a lot of them, but they're not that dumb. They know that A, it will look bad. They know it'll often get media coverage. They know it'll that usually a legal observer has the ability to legally represent themselves and make the police department look bad if it goes to court. So there's a lot of reason they don't arrest legal observers generally. But the shit in Atlanta is getting so crazy that these dystopian level cops are now arresting legal observers, and I've never heard of this next part before, charging them with terrorism. Because apparently standing and observing the brutality and abuse of our police system is now terrorism. But you'll also find fascinating under what legal precedent the cops are now doing this. So they charged a lot of the protesters with terrorism, by the way. At least 23 protesters have been charged with domestic terrorism amid a week of action against construction of Cop City in Atlanta, a proposed $90 million police training complex. Atlanta police detained 35 people and arrested 23 on the night of March 5th. They claimed for vandalism against Cop City construction site and violence towards police. So I've covered Cop City on multiple episodes. They're building, like it said, a $90 million police training facility, but it's also going to be used for Hollywood movies. And it also is knocking down one of the little remaining forest, and the little bit of remaining forest in Atlanta is being knocked down to do this, 100 acres worth. Activists dispute the narrative coming from the cops, while video footage shows a small group torching the construction site and throwing fireworks towards police. According to activists, none of the 35 people detained were detained at the construction site itself. Those fighting Cop City have now directed energy towards dropping charges against the 23 who were arrested and facing hefty domestic terrorism charges. One of those was a legal observer for the Southern Poverty Law Center. Now, wait till you hear the legal basis that these police are using to arrest people. Almost all of them nonviolent protesters. I get that they're saying some people lit a fire or something, but it's not even clear that anyone they arrested was involved in that. On top of that, you really shouldn't include property destruction in violence. These are two different, like, violence towards a person is different than breaking a window. But anyway, that being said, how do they justify bringing terrorism charges against nonviolent protesters, including a legal observer? Well, police have slapped these massive charges on protesters following unrest as a response to the police killing of anti-Cop City activist Tortuguita earlier in February, which you might have heard me cover that before. They literally assassinated, they murdered someone that was a nonviolent protester at these protests. And then the camera, the whatever, what do they call them? The fucking police camera footage. It came out, and it you can overhear them saying they shot their own man. So basically, cops shot cops, which caused the cops to respond by killing a protester. And that's not the narrative the police want to reveal. But what is the legal basis for charging these people with domestic terrorism? Georgia's domestic terrorism law was passed in 2017 in part as a response to a mass shooting against black churchgoers in South Carolina, carried out by white supremacist Dylan Roof. The law loosened the definition of domestic terrorism from an act intended to kill or injure at least 10 people to any felony intended to intimidate the civilian population or alter, change, or coerce the policy of the government. Do you have any idea the number of protests that are done to try to coerce the policy of the government? That is most protests. Like, that is the goal of protest, is to coerce our government to change. And they passed some fucking law in Georgia that basically made it legal for them to arrest any protester and charge them with terrorism. I mean, that's fucking straight up fascism is what it is. Many at the time warned that this would be turned against left-wing protesters. What? Rather than white supremacists, a prediction which proved accurate. So yet again, we're seeing exactly what many said would happen with these types of laws, saying that cops can charge people with terrorism. Sure enough, being used against left-wing protests. Far less likely they're being used against white supremacists because in our cop system is a white supremacist system. So they're far more eager to go after the left-wing protesters than white supremacists. But here they are arresting legal observers. People with little hats on saying, I'm one of the good guy lawyers here to watch things. Arresting them for terrorism. You know, when you view making sure you aren't breaking the law as terrorism, then I think you might think about what you stand for, because I think you might be on the fascist side of things. Hey, thanks, James. I appreciate it. Appreciate the donation. By the way, if others of you want to support my show, please become a member at leecamp.net. And of course, for free, you can click follow or subscribe. You can click follow on Rumble, rumble.com/leecamp, which is where I'll be heading in a minute. I'm hoping to get to 40,000 very soon, 40,000 followers. And I'd love for you to be a part of that. Join up there.